Welcome to the Hydric Hammock. This is perhaps one of the coolest ecosystems that you'll ever find in Florida. It's called a hammock because that's the Native American term for a very, very shady place, right? And it's called hydric, well, because it only experiences 2 seasons during the year, the wet and the dry. You see, most places have the 4 seasons where you've got spring, summer, winter, and fall, not in that order. But in the hydric hammock, a lot of these areas in South Florida really only experience 2 seasons. That's the wet and the dry. And we're just now finishing up the dry season. That goes from November until April. It is now the 1st of May, and this is right at the peak of the dry, but as we're transitioning into the wet. And it's this time that the hydric hammock can reveal a lot of its cool secrets. Let's go find some. So, the hydric hammock doesn't really get a chance to have any kind of understory at all. It's dominated by the growth of sable palms. That's the dominant palm tree in this area, and live oak or some other kind of oak like that. But live oak is the dominant one here in the south. So that's really the only 2 dominant species. You might have the occasional red maple or water oak that comes in, or maybe some smaller things like native coffee. That's a really cool plant. I wish we could cultivate it and make our own coffee. That would be awesome. But I digress. So there's all these cool plants, but most of the time, as you can see, the ground cover is non-existent. That's because the seasonal flooding here is so great that nothing gets a chance to root and grow. Only occasionally do you have plants that can germinate from a seed and grow up for a single season, dropping its seeds, and then the flooding doesn't kill those seeds, and therefore you can have this light ground cover of grasses or sometimes just some basic herbs or forbs. That's about all you're going to get in this habitat. Mostly that is the ground cover. Now, as sparse as this looks, there's still a tremendous amount of wildlife. You're hearing squirrels banging around, hitting the large fronds of the palmettos. You're getting armadillo and raccoon that are moving through this area, and tons of lizards and snakes, and even sometimes we get some box turtles if we're in the habit, or if we're in the region of the country where box turtles exist. They will love this. Matter of fact, box turtles, when the floods come in, don't even leave the area. They just continue on. Remember, box turtles are in the pond turtle family. They just continue on underneath the water, and they'll crawl themselves up vegetation to get a breath and sink back down and just go about their merry lives doing their box turtle thing. So all kinds of cool animals still exist in here, as do a really cool type of plant. I'll show you. Come here. So this is what I wanted to show you. This, let me get my balance. There we go. This is a native Florida butterfly orchid. It has little tiny green flowers, which it's not in bloom right now, but it's growing here on this beautiful live oak in the middle of this hydric hammock. Understand, you rarely ever do you find orchids in Florida anymore because collectors come by and they're so beautiful that they take them for their own collection. Well, that pulls them out of their own environment. We need to leave orchids where they are. They're a part of the habitat, they're a part of the environment, and it's important to make sure that they stay where they need to be. But you can see this beautiful plant with these long strap-like they're almost angled leaves. They almost make a V shape like that. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's like a little V shape, and they come off these little bulbs, and it's not just this mature one. There's another one up here and another one next to it. It's got young. It's growing babies. This is so awesome to find because it's so hard to find these plants anymore. Hydric hammocks. This is the place because orchids love shade. Most orchids don't like being in the full sun. So they've got to have these shady places, these hydric hammocks to grow. This is where you can come in and really appreciate just some of this awesome, rare beauty. Wow, native Florida butterfly orchid. This is awesome. And orchids aren't the only epiphytes that we find in hydric hammocks. An epiphyte, by the way, means on a plant. It's a plant that grows on another plant. And orchids are one type, and then you have another type called a bromeliad. These guys love full sun, so they're going to be up on the branches. They're going to be higher up. There are some that love shade, but most of them love to be higher up, getting that full sun if they can. But none of these plants, the orchids or the bromeliads, none of these plants have roots that they're pulling nutrients from. The roots just anchor them onto the plant that they're on. They get all of their nutrients from rainwater and from the air. They survive on nothing but that. If you like the idea of bromeliads, you've got to check out my video on air plants. That one, I talk about all the different kinds of bromeliads that I found while I was down here adventuring in South Florida. Right now, I'm going to try to capture one of the most abundant organisms in this particular habitat. I don't know how successful I'll be because they're really fast, but here we go. I'm going to give it a shot. This is the brown anole. This is the guy right here. Where's the guy or a girl? Are you a boy or a girl? He has the dewlap. That is a boy. There he is. So this is the brown anole. This is the guy that was introduced from Cuba. There's a couple different subspecies. The main one is the Cuban anole, the Cuban brown. There's also, I believe, a Bahamian, like from the Bahamas, a Bahamian brown. But this is the brown anole. This is the guy that's taking the place, has been eradicating green anoles from their native habitat. Green anoles, those are the ones that are native to Florida. These guys are not, they've been introduced and they are literally taking over. But this guy right here, big male, you can see that beautiful ridge on his back. Now, it's a brown anole. The green anole can be green or brown. They change color between the two. The brown anole goes from like a light brown to a dark brown. It depends on the kind of the mood he's in or how much temperature, how much heat he needs to absorb. But this is the brown anole, probably the most extensive. They're all the way now up into Alabama and other areas. These guys are more dominant in the urban areas. They've kind of taken over the neighborhoods and driven the green anoles out into the wild. But now we're finding more and more and more brown anoles in the wild. So they're expanding their range away from habitations, from homes and things, and out there into the wild. So there is the brown anole, just a really beautiful lizard. I wish he wasn't here in Florida, but you know, hey, it is what it is. Nice, cute little guy. Can you say goodbye? Can you say goodbye? No, you're not gonna do it. You're just gonna kind of look at me like I'm weird. All right, here we go. I'm gonna let you go. Hydric hammocks. These are awesome, wet, shady environments. They're fantastic because though they look really sparse, there's such an incredible diversity of life. And not just a diversity of life, but life that you really don't find anywhere else. The unique species that exist here are just beyond imagination and description. Get out into nature, see if there's a hydric hammock around the area where you live. They don't just exist in South Florida. Get out and explore some areas around you. See what you can discover.